Love isn't enough. Emotional maturity is everything. We live in a world obsessed with romance, with fleeting moments of passion, with grand gestures that are meant to define a relationship. Social media shows us the highlight reels, the flowers, the vacations, the smiles, and it convinces us that love is supposed to be effortless, magical, and instantaneous. But the reality of modern relationships is far from that fantasy. Love in its purest form is not enough. You can feel it, you can crave it, and you can even fight for it, but if it is not accompanied by emotional maturity, it will falter under pressure, strain under expectation, and collapse under misunderstanding. Emotional maturity is the silent, invisible foundation of a healthy relationship, and yet it is rarely talked about, rarely prioritized, and often overlooked in the desperate pursuit of love itself. Love is a feeling, emotional maturity is a skill, and the skill is learned over time through failure, reflection, and self-awareness. Anyone can feel love, few can sustain it. Anyone can fall for someone, few can choose them day after day, even when they are not perfect, even when the excitement fades, and even when life becomes complicated. Emotional maturity is not about being perfect. It is about handling imperfection with grace, patience, and clarity. It is about understanding that love is not a cure for insecurity, that a partner is not a therapist, and that a relationship is not a stage for reenacting unresolved trauma. It is about being able to feel intensely while thinking clearly, to care deeply while staying grounded, and to commit wholeheartedly without losing oneself. In modern relationships, people often mistake attraction for compatibility. They confuse desire with devotion, chemistry with connection, and infatuation with understanding. This confusion creates a fragile foundation, one that looks beautiful from the outside but cracks under pressure. When challenges arise, which they always do, the absence of emotional maturity becomes glaring. Without it, small disagreements escalate into fights, miscommunications turn into resentments, and misunderstandings spiral into heartbreak. People think that if they love each other enough, they can weather any storm, but the truth is that love without maturity is like a ship without a rudder. It moves, it floats, it might even survive for a while, but eventually it drifts off course. The biggest illusion is believing that love can fix everything. Love cannot heal insecurities, unhealed trauma, or poor communication habits. It cannot erase fear, jealousy, or neediness. If you enter a relationship carrying emotional wounds from your past, you will inevitably project them onto your partner. You will seek validation where there is none, you will demand reassurance endlessly, and you will interpret neutrality as rejection. Emotional maturity teaches you to notice these patterns, to take responsibility for your feelings, and to approach your partner from a place of clarity rather than chaos. It teaches that you can love someone without expecting them to complete you, that you can desire someone without depending on them for self-worth, and that you can stay committed even when the moment feels uncomfortable, challenging, or inconvenient. Another critical aspect of emotional maturity is understanding the difference between reaction and response. In the heat of an argument, when emotions are high, it is easy to lash out, blame, or shut down. Emotional maturity allows you to pause, reflect, and respond with intention rather than impulse. It allows you to see your partner as a human being, with flaws and fears just like you, instead of as an enemy or an obstacle. It allows you to apologize sincerely, forgive genuinely, and communicate openly, even when it feels difficult. Love without maturity also confuses possession with partnership. Many modern relationships are built on control disguised as care. People cling, monitor, or manipulate, believing that love justifies their actions. Emotional maturity teaches the opposite, that love is freedom, trust, and respect. It teaches that you can be deeply connected without being suffocated, that intimacy is about choice, not obligation, and that the strongest bonds are formed when both individuals maintain their identities while growing together. It is also important to recognize that emotional maturity is not a fixed state. It is a continuous practice. You grow through mistakes, through challenges, through heartbreak, and through reflection. A relationship will test your patience, your empathy, your communication, and your integrity. Without maturity, these tests become battles, but with it, they become opportunities for growth and deeper connection. Love becomes sustainable not because it is perfect, but because the people in it are capable of handling imperfection with awareness, compassion, and resilience. Most importantly, emotional maturity requires self-love and self-awareness. You cannot bring your best self to a relationship if you are disconnected from your own needs, boundaries, and emotions. You cannot expect your partner to fix you, complete you, or validate you endlessly. Emotional maturity begins with understanding yourself, owning your mistakes, healing your wounds, and approaching love from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. Love is a beautiful force, but it is not enough to carry a relationship on its own. Without emotional maturity, love becomes fragile, conditional, and ultimately unsustainable. The modern relationship crisis is not about a lack of love. It is about a lack of readiness to handle love responsibly. People want love, but they are not willing to do the hard work. Self-reflection, honest communication, accountability, and emotional discipline. That makes love thrive. Emotional maturity is the invisible muscle that supports love, the quiet strength that allows passion to last, the inner compass that navigates the complexities of intimacy, trust, and partnership. Boundaries are not barriers. They are acts of self-respect in modern relationships. Boundaries are one of the most misunderstood concepts. Many people think that boundaries are cold, distant, or even selfish. They hear the word and immediately picture walls, silence, or separation. But boundaries are none of those things. Boundaries are not barriers. They are acts of self-respect. They are the invisible lines that protect your peace, your values, and your identity, while still allowing love to flourish. Without boundaries, love becomes chaotic, suffocating, and confusing. Without them, you give away parts of yourself in the name of care, only to feel empty, frustrated, and unappreciated. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is thinking that love requires sacrifice to the point of self-erasure. Society has conditioned us to believe that if you truly love someone, you must bend, compromise, and accommodate endlessly. You must tolerate discomfort, ignore your own needs, and prioritize their happiness above your own. The modern reality is different. Relationships that survive and thrive are those in which both individuals maintain their identity. Boundaries are not rejection, they are communication. They are a statement that says, I value myself, and I also value us. Boundaries begin with self-awareness. They require knowing what you need, what you will tolerate, and what makes you feel safe and respected. They require understanding your limits, emotional triggers, and deal breakers. Many people enter relationships without this clarity, thinking that love will teach them what is acceptable and what is not. But love cannot teach self-respect. It can only test the limits you fail to establish. Without boundaries, small issues turn into resentment, and resentment grows quietly until it becomes impossible to ignore. In today's world, where instant gratification dominates and communication is often reduced to texts and emojis, boundaries are more important than ever. People confuse availability with devotion. They assume that if someone doesn't answer immediately, it means they don't care. They expect constant attention, immediate responses, and endless validation. Boundaries allow you to clarify these expectations. They give both partners space to breathe without guilt, to focus on personal growth without fear, and to maintain balance between independence and intimacy. A critical point that no one talks about is that boundaries also protect the relationship itself. They prevent the slow erosion of respect that happens when one partner constantly oversteps. When boundaries are ignored, subtle resentment builds. Complaints that could have been resolved in conversation turn into long-term frustration. Emotional distance forms, often unnoticed until it has become a pattern. Boundaries, therefore, are not only about self-preservation, they are about relationship preservation. They set a tone of mutual respect, trust, and understanding from the very beginning. Boundaries also redefine communication. Instead of allowing frustration to fester, emotional maturity combined with clear boundaries encourages honest dialogue. Saying, "I need time to myself after work before we talk," is not rejection, it is clarity. Saying, "I cannot tolerate dishonesty or manipulation," is not aggression, it is self-respect. Boundaries teach you to speak your truth without fear of judgment and to listen without defensiveness. They transform interactions from power struggles into meaningful exchanges that deepen intimacy rather than damage it. Another key truth about boundaries is that they challenge unhealthy patterns. Many people unconsciously repeat behaviors learned from family, past relationships, or social conditioning. They overgive to prove love, they tolerate disrespect to avoid conflict, and they compromise too often to maintain peace. Boundaries disrupt these cycles by demanding accountability, encouraging reflection, and forcing both partners to evaluate what they truly want and need. They push relationships out of complacency and into conscious connection. Boundaries are also an act of courage. Saying no is rarely easy, especially when society frames it as unkind or selfish. But every time you honor your limits, you reinforce the standard for how you expect to be treated. Boundaries teach others how to love you correctly. They filter out toxicity, prevent exploitation, and encourage the growth of genuine, respectful love. They remind us that love is not about total submission. It is about mutual respect, cooperation, and choice. Self-love and self-respect are the foundation of boundaries. You cannot demand healthy boundaries from someone else if you have not first cultivated them within yourself. You cannot expect your partner to understand your limits if you are still unclear about them. The process is not about rigidity, it is about clarity. It is about knowing what is essential for your well-being and having the courage to uphold it consistently. Boundaries also create freedom, not restriction. Many fear that boundaries will create distance or push partners away, but the opposite is true. Healthy boundaries allow two individuals to enter a relationship whole, not incomplete. They allow space for personal growth, individuality, and authenticity. They foster trust because each person knows the other's values, limits, and expectations. They build a strong framework where love can grow without fear of suffocation, manipulation, or misunderstanding. Healing together, not from each other. One of the most unspoken truths in modern relationships is that many of us enter them carrying invisible baggage. Past heartbreaks, disappointments, and emotional wounds often travel with us into new connections, and if left unexamined, they can sabotage love before it has a chance to grow. Healing is rarely discussed as a shared journey. Instead, people often treat love as a cure for their pain, expecting their partner to fill gaps that are not theirs to fill. The problem is, no one can truly heal you. Healing is not a gift a partner can give, it is a personal responsibility. Yet, when two emotionally aware individuals come together, healing transforms from a solitary struggle into a shared experience that strengthens the bond rather than strains it. Healing together does not mean one person becomes the therapist of the other, nor does it mean that you excuse harmful behavior because someone is broken. Healing together means acknowledging your wounds while holding space for your partners, creating an environment where empathy, patience, and understanding guide your actions. It means practicing radical honesty without fear, communicating not to hurt but to clarify, and recognizing that vulnerability is the bridge between isolation and intimacy. Most people avoid vulnerability because it is uncomfortable and frightening, but true healing thrives in discomfort. It grows in spaces where both individuals can express their fears, triggers, and insecurities without judgment. In modern relationships, there is a dangerous culture of avoidance. People ghost instead of confronting issues, detach instead of connecting, and leave instead of staying to work through discomfort. We have become so accustomed to instant gratification and temporary solutions that we fail to cultivate the endurance required for real love. Healing together demands that you resist these impulses. It demands that you face the pain, acknowledge it, and navigate it together rather than alone. It requires humility, self-awareness, and the courage to say, "I don't have all the answers, but I will stay with you through the uncertainty." Healing together also involves breaking patterns. Many people unconsciously repeat cycles of pain, conflict, or mistrust from past relationships or childhood experiences. Without awareness, these patterns dictate the dynamics of every new relationship. But when two people commit to healing together, they interrupt these cycles. They replace blame with accountability, fear with communication, and reaction with reflection. They learn to identify triggers without projecting them onto their partner. And they cultivate patience with behaviors that may initially seem frustrating or unfamiliar. The beauty of healing together lies in the balance between individuality and connection. Each person must continue to nurture themselves, pursue personal growth, and honor their own boundaries. At the same time, they must be willing to support, understand, and adapt to the journey of the other. It is a delicate equilibrium, one that requires constant attention, honesty, and intention. Relationships cannot survive when one person sacrifices their entire sense of self for the other, nor can they flourish when both remain rigid and unyielding. Healing together means both individuals grow, change, and evolve while remaining committed to the partnership. Another crucial aspect of healing together is recognizing that love is not about perfection. It is about progress. Misunderstandings will happen. Mistakes will be made, words will sometimes wound unintentionally, and actions will sometimes fall short. Healing together is about seeing these moments not as failures, but as opportunities to deepen connection, reinforce trust, and practice forgiveness. It is about developing resilience as a couple, learning to navigate conflict without resentment, and embracing vulnerability as a strength rather than a weakness. Healing together also transforms the meaning of intimacy. Emotional closeness is no longer just about romance or physical attraction. It becomes a conscious, deliberate effort to understand, accept, and support each other fully. It is the reassurance that your partner will stay even when you are at your lowest, the knowledge that your partner sees your flaws without judgment, and the confidence that your love is strong enough to endure challenges without breaking. It is about creating a safe emotional space where both people feel validated, heard, and cherished. Ultimately, modern relationships succeed not because love is easy, but because love is intentional. Healing together requires intentionality in listening, in responding, and in nurturing growth both individually and as a couple. It requires the courage to face personal and shared pain, the patience to allow time for recovery, and the empathy to honor the other's process. Healing together is not linear. It has setbacks, delays, and difficult moments, but it is consistent in its effort and purpose. When two people commit to this path, their love transforms into something rare and unshakable. It is no longer dependent on circumstance, excitement, or perfection. It becomes rooted in understanding, mutual respect, and shared growth. It is a love that recognizes the past, honors the present, and is willing to build a future together through conscious effort, resilience, and unwavering support.